And
Great.
welcome to part 9.3, episode 9.3 of Ben and Jake Write a Movie. Today we are going deeper into our characters, particularly the last half hour, talking about the character of Sam, who is our human protagonist. We have discovered through asking bunches of questions to each other that our Sam not only is not in control of her life, but somewhat more. She is basically a bit of a fuck up. Who by the end is going to become someone truly in control of their life and fully empowered and leading a life of choice and perhaps their version of what goodness looks like. So yeah, anyway, go and check out 9.2 if you haven't already, but this is where we are at the start of 9.3.
Yeah, so great. Awesome. I love your recaps, Jake. I think that's your job from now on. There you go.
I finally found my calling.
Anyone who wants Jake to continue the recaps, comment on the comments.
I just think it sounds really good in my accent.
Well, most things do. You're lucky that way. It's really unfair. Honestly, I'm going to stop for a second. It's very unfair that for some reason, everything that comes out of a Brit's mouth sounds smart.
For some reason, everything that comes out of a Brit's mouth sounds smart.
See? It's bullshit. It's actually the only reason I have him around.
Exactly. I said one. He actually pays me to do this.
Right. Okay. Great. So continuing to go into Sam, and I don't, I'm getting a really nice picture of her. I do actually think, how are you feeling about like the Haley Steinfeld comp or the Florence Pugh comp?
I think those are really, Florence Pugh's interesting in terms of, and again, let's just be clear. We're not writing this for Florence Pugh.
No. It's just an image in my mind.
This is an image in our minds. But it's interesting. There was a really interesting thread that our friend Cole Haddon did on Twitter a little while ago about not casting in advance.
Yeah,
in your mind, and I was like, "That's interesting." Because
really agree with it, though. To be honest,
I'm not sure I did either. I mean, I just go, and I think, why do I do it? I like to have a picture of someone in my mind. I just do, and when I'm writing a movie, I like to picture an actor. And again, it's not to write for their voice.
No,
I don't think that we do that.
No.
You know,
no, we don't go. No. That's not what I'm saying. I feel like for me, it hones in on that image. And we always talk about how, as we're writing, we are playing the movie in our minds.
Completely.
We are, regardless, unless you are someone who can create avatars in your mind when you're watching your imaginary movie or drawings of random people.
Yeah.
You're casting it anyways.
Absolutely.
Even if it's your uncle or it's your, so why not cast it with someone that actually is an actor? I mean, it's the same thing. It's like, in fact, we were just writing another script. We were working on another script, and I said to Jake, in my mind, it's always been your friend Hadrian.
I know, totally. Yes.
Like, that's the thing, is like, you cast people because as you're watching that movie play out or that scene play out, it's not a faceless person.
No, exactly.
And how else? I mean, I'd love to know, Cole, if you're watching, who do you put in your imagination if you're not casting it with actors? Because I genuinely would be like, I don't know that I could watch it play out. Sometimes they're generic people. If it's like a background or somebody, cop number one, but you know who that person's influenced by? All the fucking cops I've seen on TV. It's like they end up being cast as just like one of those
dudes,
right? So they're still being like, I'm still seeing their face and seeing them talk to someone and their expression and everything else. Like, has to be a person.
Completely. I agree.
So anyway, that's a long
way around.
Someone like Haley Steinfeld or Florence Pugh. And it can be
Haley Steinfeld's got a lighter quality about her. Florence Pugh feels harder. So I think it's just, but again, again, it's like, I like the idea that there is a contrast between the demon and Sam, and that there is this idea of a kind of lightness of again. It's not lightness. She's not bubbly, but she's got a kind of like I want the banter between them. You know?
Yeah, I agree. I want banter, but I don't know, based on what we're talking about here, that it's going to be what we've said previously, which is
Yeah,
she's this light and bubbly girl, and this is the hard and cold girl. I just think that they're going to have very different perspectives on life,
sure,
and that there's plenty of banter to be had with
right.
that. You don't need. I mean, again, I'll use our Terminator 2 reference. John Connor's not light and bubbly, and Arnold's not light and bubbly,
But there's such a difference
and either is her, and
in
either is
their
his mom.
in their qualities, aren't there? Like John Connor's like he's got that kind of lightness and like holy shit, you know, like they got that
There's not really
a
yeah. I mean, I don't know. He's a kid. He has a kid
sure.
quality to him, but it's not certainly not a light kid. He's not.
No,
Like
sure.
he gets excited
Yeah.
about things like a kid might, like a
Right.
teenager might.
Yeah.
And I think that this character could get excited about things the same way that
That John Connor would
any character, even as a fuck up, even as someone who's dark, even as someone who may not be light and bubbly, can go, holy shit, you can do that.
Yeah,
what?
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
It doesn't necessarily have to be. I feel like this gives us a better arc for the character.
Sure.
I think it's more important.
Yeah, no, I think that's true. I think as well that she has something that our Charlize's character doesn't have, which is going to be she has a bit more of a sense of humor about things.
Oh yeah, totally.
Yeah,
totally. So interesting. Jeremiah Lewis says, "I rarely think of someone known."
Yeah,
cool. Well,
absolutely. Again, I think it's whatever it is that I think it's just that thing, isn't it? It's like every creative person has their own way of approaching a problem, and it's whatever. It's so whatever works for you. Like it's interesting. As you know, I've been working on my book. Some characters in that, even as I've been writing them, are certain people. Absolutely. And some people aren't, you know, and it's like sometimes that helps you and sometimes it really doesn't. And it's the same with screenwriting too. It's exactly the same thing. It's like if it helps you, great. And if you want to put someone you don't know in there too and just have a face, that works too, you know.
I think it goes also back to like what we were saying, even from episode 1, which is there's no rules.
No.
It's just like, this is how we do it.
Absolutely.
I 100%.
That's easy for you to say.
Cole Haddon, and I certainly think that his perspective on how to do it is 100% valid. Like that's the way he does it, and that's great. You know,
indeed.
So
yes.
For us though, this is kind of like in our mind, someone around that age, someone around that sensibility is going to be
mid-20s, early to mid-20s.
Yeah. And I think that's important because of where someone is in their life.
Yes.
So other questions, just boiling, digging down into who she is at this moment. Does she live alone or does she live with a roommate or with
she lives with a roommate or two? Yeah. Again, I like that. I like that quality of like, this isn't someone who's fully independent, even if they're living in a studio. Totally. Like they just, they live in a place where like, or is she's not couch surfing, but but what's the quality of like,
I mean, look, she can have like a teeny little shithole studio apartment in Portland. I'd buy that.
Yeah, maybe there's just something maybe it's because we've been talking so much about Terminator lately, and it's just kind of like there's something about the fact that Sarah Connor lives with someone else. That other person has a boyfriend. They're always screwing. There's just something about like I understand that. I know what it's like to live with a flatmate because you don't quite earn enough money yet to even have a studio apartment or something like that. So anyway, I just perhaps. I'm not sure how important it is, but it's just a question, isn't it? What kind of...
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it goes to her social life. The type of person that she is.
Totally. If she did have a flatmate, who is the kind of person she's living with?
Yeah. I mean, that's why I'm seeing her more of a loner type, which is also actually interesting because of the dynamic that then becomes her and the demon end up being kind of similar in a lot of ways. And actually, I know we were talking about the opposites, but their similarities will actually really help their connection to
That's
each other.
interesting. Yeah, I just don't like being around other people.
And actually, like them being able to relate to each other in that way is gonna, I think, really infuse a nice growth.
Yeah.
Um,
That's interesting. I think that could be
yeah.
interesting. Jeff,
It doesn't mean she can't. She has to live in the studio. I'm not saying she has to.
No,
Live in
no,
the
yeah,
studio.
absolutely, yeah.
What I'm saying, I guess, is wherever she lives, I think that it needs to reflect this idea that she is a bit of a loner. She's not close. Her roommate is not her best friend that they get all dolled up together to go out for the night.
No,
like
totally, absolutely right. Yeah.
That's not
the image. The image I had a second ago was of Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man living in that little shitty apartment in New York, where the Russian landlord always is after his rent. She's like, I get it to you next time. You know,
totally. Look, I had friends in my 20s in LA who lived in shitty studio apartments because that's what they could afford, and sometimes they couldn't pay their rent, and some of them ended up couch surfing on my couch. But you know, like I think that a really social person is able to get a friend who they then end up living with. A person who has difficulty in social situations or making friends or keeping friends for long periods of time is either going to live by themselves or have a room in an apartment where they don't really get along.
Don't really know the other people there.
Like there is the version whereby it's like she shares a room in a house, and like she like doesn't like the people that she's renting from, and they don't like her
completely, and
it's like a really weird fucked up situation. There's also a version where she has like a sibling or a step sibling who she lives in the basement of their house,
I was seeing like she lives above a restaurant, you know, those little kind of places usually like above a Chinese restaurant. All the smells are always going, and there's something interesting about that, you know.
So I mean, I think her living situation, whichever we land on, and I is going to be not the greatest.
Yes, I agree.
It's not the greatest. Either she's alone,
or with a group of people that she doesn't like. Jeff Ong says on YouTube, Joey King is Sam.
There you go. It's actually not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea, actually. Yeah.
All right. Could be interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, it could be. It could be.
Yeah. So from there,
yes.
Is there anything else?
Oh, I was going to ask this. And maybe the answer is no, but again, it's just the question is there a ghost in Sam's life? And by a ghost, I mean something that happened to her in her past that she still has not dealt with or overcome, that still haunts her. An event.
I'll tell you here's my thought on her. I actually don't think she needs one. And the reason is because her entire life is a ghost.
I think that's valid.
Her being a fuck up is her ghost.
Yeah.
Her growing and starting and dealing with the fact that was not the life she had to have led. And that she can start fresh. Is her tackling her ghost.
I think that's right. As you say that feels right to me. Yeah.
You know.
Right.
But yes, I think it's a good question to ask. And actually, I'm even going to write down the answer. Her entire life until this point is her, quote, ghost.
Yeah. For those not familiar with the concept of a ghost, it is, as I was just explaining, it is a something that happened to you in your past that perhaps the character still carries with them, that over the course of the movie they might be reminded of, they might experience again in some way, and it is something for which they either need to atone for or overcome by the end. The example I always think about is Michael Douglas's character in Basic Instinct. And he's got this nickname, and his nickname is Shooter because he accidentally killed someone in the past. And he kind of carries this around this whole time. I was in a situation where an innocent person died. And it's just an interesting thing that, he just, again, I don't even know if that even fully gets resolved in that movie, but he's just got the weight of that with him all the time. And like, even his like fellow cop buddies call him Shooter. And it's like, and it's a real like derogatory term for him. It's like a real put, and it's like, okay, Shooter. And it's like, fuck, you know.
Yeah.
Anyway. So,
So I'm wondering at this point, and this tends to be also, I would say, the way Jake and I tend to do things is we find a place where it feels like a natural moment to stop.
Yeah.
Unless there's more that I'm thinking that we want to keep going through with Sam, the next kind of evolution of this conversation is clearly to go to our deeming character and start digging in there, which feels like its own conversation.
And part of it will be giving her a name that isn't Charlize.
Yes. So we got to come up with that name. I think that might be tomorrow's work.
I'm down with that. I'm totally down with that. This has been a really good conversation. And again, I think what's interesting just to observe as I like look at even just these conversations that we're having is through the discussion on character, we found other things that are going to happen in the plot. You know, we're going, she's going to be in debt to this.
These are intertwined.
Exactly right. She's going to be in debt to these guys. They're going to send someone over. Charlize is going to kill them. And then all of a sudden they're in the store and you go, oh, well, that just came out of the fact that we're going to going, oh, does she owe money to someone? Well, what does that mean? What happens? What happens because of that?
Yes.
You know,
it's interesting, like the way to approach, I was thinking about this morning, the way you approach like developing a TV pitch or developing a pilot idea versus breaking down a movie. And, you know, we've been told, because we're feature writers first, that we tend to focus on plot first and character second. And that in TV, it's all about character first and plot second. But what's really interesting to me is I go, on the one hand, they're not entirely wrong because we literally started with plot.
We did.
And that, but I always think of plot informing character and character informing plot.
That's right.
And so it's always been a bit of a, I think, confusion in terms of the process. I actually think TV writers and feature writers have far more in common than we're led to believe, especially since we've done now quite a few pilots.
Absolutely.
And I think it's about communicating, and we're learning this right now. We're about to pitch a TV show, and it's about how to communicate the ideas to an executive who doesn't understand that actually the process tends to be quite the same.
Absolutely right.
We're not going to not have deep characters just because we're going into a plot that is exciting. And yet TV executives seem to think, oh, well, you can't just tell me plot, otherwise you're not going to have interesting characters.
Totally.
And yet for us, it's always been, well, the two inform each other.
Completely. Obviously, the formats being what they are, I feel like in TV, you return to an episode and you return to a show because you care about the characters.
100%.
Whereas obviously in a 2-hour movie, you want a story wrapped up in as neat a way as possible.
Yeah, and of course you still need to care about the characters, though.
Totally.
You know?
Our friend Mike Lee once said to us, and I think it's absolutely right, in TV, you're in the pilot, you're leaving lots of doors open, and with a film, you're making sure that all the doors are closed. And I just like that. I just think it's a really nice way of thinking about it in terms of character. But yes, I think absolutely right. It really is all about character.
Yeah, totally. Awesome.
Cool. All right. Thank you, Jeremiah. Thanks so much for watching. He says, cool to see you guys going through this process.
Thanks, Jeremiah.
You see me go through this process too.
All right, Ben. We get to do this, and it's super fun. And thank you so much for watching. And I'm going to plug the YouTube channel again. Please subscribe because we want a vanity link. And then,
and honestly, if you're watching, tweet about us. We just want to get this out as quickly as possible. Because again, I think the reason that we're doing this is precisely what Jeremiah is saying. Is it's we don't normally get a chance to see this. You don't see this. You don't see screenwriters go through this work. And I think I think I would have found it so beneficial to have gone, oh look, here are two people. Here's how they do it. Again, how can I infuse that into my own creativity?
Then you find your own way.
Absolutely right. Completely.
Just so everyone is also aware, we are on Apple Podcasts as well.
Yes.
You can find us there at Ben and Jake Write a Movie.
So if you don't have enough time to sit and watch these, which some people may not,
you can listen to us, our beautiful voices. Jake's beautiful British voice. You can listen to that in your car. And we will also be breaking this episode down into smaller segments, which will be on our YouTube channel, so that you can have it in smaller chunks. And then lastly, we will continue to do our Facebook sessions on Tuesdays and Thursdays, YouTube 5 days a week. So we will be back tomorrow live on YouTube, and hope to see you there, guys.
See you then. Thanks.
Bye.